Welcome back to BTN Live. Time for us to take a look at the NCAA tournament from a national perspective. I can think of no one better to do exactly that than our friend Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. Mike, let's start with conference perception. Take the ACC, for example. 6 teams in the tournament, 5 in the Sweet 16. Conversely, the Big East gets 6 in. Just 1 team makes the Sweet 16. How much, if at all, should our perception of the strength of these leagues change based on tournament results?
Well, I think the first mistake that was made in assessing the conferences this season was the presumption that anyone was really any better than anybody else. And that's where the committee went really wrong. I had been saying for a long time there were no great leagues this year, that the ACC had an extraordinary first division, and you're seeing that reflected in the results of the tournament. But that, look, if the ACC doesn't get to call itself far and away the best conference, they're the one that wanted 15 teams. So you got to own them all. And there's about 7 or 8 of them maybe they don't want to own now. But you're stuck with them. So that's the reality of it. Are they the best conference? I mean, they have the most significant teams. There's no question about that. The Big 12 and the Big East, I tried to tell people that there was not great strength in those leagues, that they were really competitive, but that they did not have great teams. They just didn't have enough size in the Big 12. There were too many small teams. The Big East just didn't have enough pure talent. And so you're seeing teams go out of the tournament early as a result. I just don't think there were no leagues this year that were like the Big East in 2011, like the Big Ten in 2013, where they were clearly dominant. And maybe that's the future now with the expansion world. Maybe it's more about teams and less about leagues, and it'll force the committee to be a little bit more circumspect.
Now, Mike, there's never been any question about the strength of Kentucky. Next up for the unbeaten Wildcats, a date with West Virginia, a team that will physically wear just about anybody down through an entire 40 minutes. What do you like about this matchup?
Well, what's interesting, what I like about it is that West Virginia's going to come in and they're going to play a game against Kentucky that they haven't really seen. Now, Kentucky's been pressed. They played Arkansas pressed. But West Virginia does it more physically than any team I think I've ever seen. I mean, I remember in the 80s with Georgetown, the 90s with Georgetown, they'd foul you so much that the refs couldn't call them all. But I think this team hits you even harder, and not dirty, not necessarily, although that screen that got Melo Trimble was not, was the kind of play I think should have been called a flagrant. But in general, they just want to mess you up. They just want to get you off your game and fluster you. And so they'll foul you, and they'll foul you again. And a lot of those fouls result in turnovers. And some of them aren't called. A lot of them aren't called. I was really amazed in the Maryland game that the officials called almost as many fouls on Maryland as they did on West Virginia. It wasn't the game I saw, to be honest with you. That'll help West Virginia because as much as Kentucky has in terms of its ability and its talent and its depth, they'll be shaken up a little bit by how West Virginia plays them. It's a question of fighting through it, and I think they will better than Maryland did on Sunday. But there's no guarantees, and that's kind of what's exciting about Thursday night.
Mike, in the bottom half of that Midwest bracket, it's Wichita State against Notre Dame. We see this every year. Greg Marshall courted by other programs, the latest reportedly Alabama. What do you think about Greg Marshall's future and how happy he is with the Shockers?
Well, I think he's happy enough to stay there until the right position comes along, but I don't believe that he's a lifer for Wichita. And so it's a question of not taking a job just to take a job. The difficulty for him with Alabama will be that Alabama seems intent on paying lots and lots of money. I mean, I think Missouri could have had him a year ago if they had been willing to go over $3 million, and they ultimately decided no because it would have meant also having to make a significant raise for Gary Pinkel, their football coach. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to worry about your football coach being underpaid relative to your basketball coach if you're Alabama. Nobody's underpaid relative to Saban. So they can just pursue him if that's what they want to do. And if they don't get him, if he decides not to take it or to wait on another opening maybe, then they obviously wouldn't have to pay the next guy that kind of money. I don't know what his view will be toward Alabama, and I don't know whether one of the jobs that would be an easy choice would open this spring. We haven't seen that happen yet, and there's no guarantee that that those positions would be declared vacant. That the ones that Greg Marshall would definitely say yes to are going to be ready for him this soon.
Speaking with Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News as we take a look at the national perspective of the NCAA tournament bracket. Out west, Mike, Wisconsin's the 1, Arizona is the 2. Who's the true favorite, though, to emerge from Los Angeles?
For me, it's still Wisconsin. I think it's a good matchup for them. Of the two, the team that I think would be a better matchup for Kentucky is Arizona. But Arizona versus Wisconsin, I think it's a good matchup for Wisconsin because they're going to score the ball more easily than Arizona does. They're less dependent on young players, and Arizona has to have good play to win a game against a team as gifted as Wisconsin. I think they have to have good play from Stanley Johnson. He did not play at all well against Ohio State, and I think that you'll see probably in order to undermine him, you'll see Wisconsin put Josh Gosser on him if this game indeed happens. I think Gosser would be on him and try to get him off his game a little bit. And Josh has done that to a lot of terrific talents, and that's why I've really liked Wisconsin to get out of the bracket. But I think that for Kentucky, that would be a better case scenario than Arizona getting out. The best case scenario for Kentucky is that neither gets out and somehow Xavier or someone like that gets through.
Mike, let's look at the other half of the bracket and go down to the South. Gonzaga absolutely crushed Iowa in the round of 32. We've seen the Zags with high seeds but go out earlier than expected the last couple of seasons. What makes this Gonzaga team different?
Well, they're more complete. Offensively and defensively, they're much better defensively than they've been. They're still not elite, but they're much better. From a standpoint of their attack, they can hit you from every position, and they can put 5 guys on the floor, their starting lineup, who can get 20, and a couple in that 5 who could get 25 or 30. And they've had great offensive teams before, but I'm not sure ever this complete. I'm not sure they've had many players as versatile scorers as Byron Wesley is, and he doesn't always have big games, but usually on the wings is where they really fall down, and Wesley gives them an offensive option. Dranginis gives them a defensive option. So I think they have a much more complete team than they've had in the past. And that doesn't guarantee, again, I use that word guarantee a lot when talking about the tournament because strange things happen. But, boy, they'd have to play really poorly to not find a way to beat UCLA. I think UCLA has cashed in a lot of chips to get this far.
Final question with Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News, who joins us here on BTN Live. Mike, the field has been shrunk significantly, but there are still some really good players out there that are not household names. So who's the best player left that not enough people know about?
I think it's Fred VanVleet, the point guard from Wichita. When I saw him play on television last year, and I didn't get a chance, they all ended up getting eliminated before I got a chance to see them play in person. I thought he was a really nice college player and a very valuable college player. And then I moved to Indianapolis, and they played at Indiana State this year, and I got a chance to go down, and my eyes were opened. He's better than a good college player. Or even a great college player. I think he's a pro. I remember always believing that Aaron Kraft was going to get into the NBA at some point, and not necessarily have a 20-year career or ever, but I thought he was good enough to play in the NBA, and I think he'll still get there. You hear good things out of Golden State about him, and I think Fred is maybe not quite to the level of Aaron defensively, but he's the closest I've seen, and he's a better offensive player. He makes a lot of shots. He can hit from deep. He can get to the rim. He's a better offensive player than Aaron was. He's tremendous talent, and he's been very valuable, an incredible winner as a collegian. So I think of all the players in the NCAA tournament, he's one who deserves more attention. To make the Final Four his freshman year, although he wasn't the only point guard they had that year, and then last year 35-1, and now back in the Sweet 16 with the Valley regular season championship to boot. It's just an amazing career to this point, and I don't know whether he decides to go on after this season or not, but enjoy him while you can because he's a special college player.
Oh, we always enjoy a chat with Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News. Mike, have a great weekend. I know you'll be in Cleveland, and if I may make a recommendation, Great Lakes Brewing Company, my friend.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Thanks, Mikey.
Thank you.